I jogged through the long module that makes up our crew quarters and rode the elevator pod down to the main hatch, leaving the artificial gravity behind. From there I floated into a place that comforted and intimidated me in equal measure. The observatory is a circular chamber made up of wall-to-wall, indestructible quartz glass windows, which gives you the illusion of flying untethered through the universe. It's the high of a spacewalk, minus the danger. The darkness surrounds you on all sides with a sudden sweep of beauty whenever the ship spirals within view of Earth. This was one of those mornings when I got to see the shock of color, the blue marble of home. I pressed my palms against the glass, staring in awe. Somewhere on that planet, in a time zone 8 hours behind ours, my parents and brother were just now falling asleep for the night, while 6,000 miles from them, Leo was waking up and starting his day. I closed my eyes, trying to picture his surroundings, what that day would look like. And that's when the pain socked me in the stomach. We don't exist in the same world anymore. I took a few breaths to steady myself, stopping the tears before they had a chance to start. I turned away from the blue, keeping my gaze fixed on the darkness and trying to pinpoint the stars around me until it was time to join the others. When I crawled back through the hatch, I found someone waiting for me on the other side. Jian Su, crewmate and co-pilot of our mission, glanced up sharply as I tumbled back into gravity. "Morning," I greeted him. "You okay?" He shook his head, his eyes frantic. "Communications down. Our flight nav software is still working fine, but I can't get any response from Houston. And then Sydney told me she tried logging onto email and kept getting an error message that said no connection found." He looked at me intently. "You can fix it, right?" My first thought was that it was a joke. He was just pulling a prank, probably Beckett Wolf's idea, to see how fast they could get a panic attack out of me. But then I remembered who I was talking to. Jian was the honest, solid, good one among us. And as I thought of the quiet this morning, the forgotten alarm from mission control, my stomach plunged. It has to be just a hiccup," I said, forcing myself to stay calm. "Let me go take a look." That was my job, to run all the tech and communications on the ship. It had been easy enough until today, but this was uncharted territory. The Pontus was never supposed to lose its connection, not for a millisecond. It was as vital to the ship as oxygen. I sprinted past Jian toward the communications bay and its array of computers, where I found each screen flashing the same message in bold red letters. Communication signals dropped, no connection found. "Houston." My voice came out like a whisper, but it didn't matter. No one could hear me anymore. "Houston, we're experiencing a comm failure. I'm rebooting the systems and running diagnostics and will wait for further instructions from mission control." By the time the computers powered back on after the reboot, my anxiety had grown into full-fledged panic. The dreaded words returned on screen, "no connection found," and my fingers shook as I ran a diagnostic scan, praying the answer would flash in front of me with a simple solution. Within minutes, the problem was staring me in the face, but it was the opposite of simple. It was our X-band antenna. The single piece of equipment on this ship that enabled all our communication with Earth wasn't even registering on the equipment scan. It was as if the antenna never existed. Something was bubbling in my stomach, a nausea-inducing fear, but I forced myself to stay focused and keep moving. I raced out of the communications bay and back to the hatch, where Jian was now joined by Sydney and Dev, the three of them looking almost as rattled as I felt. They turned to me expectantly, but all I could do was shake my head. "I'm going to the payload bay. Something's up with the antenna." "Should we go with you?" Dev offered. "One of you, maybe. There's not room for much more, but we've got to hurry." I yanked open the hatch door and climbed inside, with Dev right behind me. We crawled and then floated our way through 2 different tunnel passageways, known as nodes, until we reached the center of the ship. The payload bay required a password to enter, which always struck me as odd. Was a break-in really such a risk when we were the only 6 humans for hundreds of millions of miles? It took Dev and me 10 minutes of racking our brains and scrolling through the notes on our wrist monitors before we finally cracked it. The hatch door swung open to reveal the vastest stretch of our ship, towering 4 stories high and packed from floor to ceiling with rows upon rows of cargo, all sealed in white compartments built into the walls. Attached to one of those walls would be a 7-foot-tall, dish-shaped antenna. It was the focal point of the room, the home base of our comm system. Except it was gone. The thumping in my chest tripled in speed, loud enough for me to hear the frenetic beating through my headset.